Alright, back on the Nissan Maxima, I spoke to the owner and told him, hey, we need to get an OEM alternator for this thing. Called the Nissan dealership. They had one in stock. Now it's a superseded part number and apparently it's remanufactured, but it is from the dealer, guaranteed, so we'll see what they have in stock. For now, let's fix up this butchered connector because I really don't trust these pins. Like, what if it wasn't making contact? And we don't need an alternator. So let's do this first, plug it in, see if anything changes. If it doesn't change, obviously we'll get the alternator replaced. So I'm going to clean up this wiring, replace the connector, standard, courtesy of Standard Motor Products. Local parts store had one in stock, it's 10 bucks. So if you butcher a connector, just replace it. Why, why mess with RTV and pins that are like might not make contact? So let's pop this in. Alright, so I taped up this mess over here. See this blue wire, and I'm going to pull it through so they're all equal length going down to the alternator. Oh, you might as well do it the right way here. Get this insulation off. I don't know why they have to mess with this. Why can't you just unplug it instead of cutting the harness apart? Maybe there was a zip tie and they just went for it with a knife and then damaged the wiring harness and then just got out of hand. Who knows? So that's nice right there. Let me wrap all this stuff up, put it in the original conduit, then we'll deal with repinning this connector. Alright, here we go. Here's the new Standard Motor Products connector. So we pull this white tab out. Perfect. Now, I assume it comes out all the way. Okay, I guess I can just reach in there with a small pick. I'll leave that here. Now there's a little plastic, classic little plastic tabs that hold each pin in. So you just move the tab away from the pin and pull on it. There, it comes right out. So these pins are fine, it's just that the plastic is all messed up. So I'm going to pull all these out. There's two. Definitely save these for any future use. Okay, set those aside. Now, let's do one at a time here. This thing's completely junk. Don't mess up the order. Wow, that sucker's degraded. Might have gotten a little toasty at some point. Okay. Now we'll just slide these suckers in. Three clicks. Put our little retainer back in. Just perfect. What did they take, like a few minutes? That was definitely worth doing. So we'll save this for the customer. And there is a new weather pack in here. That's good. Let me blow that out, plug it in, and we'll see if this car charges. Alright, here we go. graphing some data. Alternator duty, battery current sensor, battery voltage. Turn the headlights on. Yep, our current sensor is working fine. Let's start it up. Alright, we're charging 14 volts. See the current, it is charging the battery now. So let's run it and see if it acts up. I just saw the battery light come on. Look at what happened to our current and voltage. Boop, glitch. Now it's back to normal. Let's take a snapshot of that. Oh, there it goes. I'll hold the RPMs up a little bit. Just want it to glitch one more time. Oh, boom. Battery and brake light. 12.6 volts and back up. So that's definitely an alternator regulator problem. So we'll get that Nissan one, plug it in. It's kind of a tricky process, but there's some YouTube videos online how to avoid, discharging your AC. You can just move the compressor out of the way, or you can move the fans out of the way, get it out the top. A couple options. We'll get her in, get this car fixed up, because it's definitely not happy. Look at that. Boom. So once it warms up, it's definitely failing. Alright, back to the Nissan Maxima. Got an alternator from the dealer. It was $500. I hope we're making the right call. So the alternator down there, yes, it does look, I guess you could say, aftermarket. The orange paint, you got the part number. A26 3. What's in the box? Right from Nissan. It looks identical. A2632N. That should throw a red flag. What are the chances that the two alternators that were installed are bad? What are the chances that the original alternator is bad? I don't know. You go on YouTube, if you see people changing out these alternators on these Nissan Maximas, seems to be a pretty common fault. But I don't believe in coincidences. I don't think we're getting bad alternators. So, what's the other variable? Could there be a voltage drop problem somewhere, from the engine block to the battery? You see this cable's aftermarket. That is absolutely a variable on charging systems. So, where does this ground cable go? It goes down. There's a current sensor on it. Then it goes down below, and let me show you guys what I found underneath. So that ground cable comes down here, and what do we see? I'll try to zoom you guys in. Right there, do you see that green? The green and the crusty? So apparently the body ground is tied into the main ground cable right there, and if there's enough corrosion, that will cause a high resistance and could throw off the alternator charging voltage. Absolutely. And then this cable comes to, it's really packed in here, the top of the transmission. Over there, that's the main engine and transmission ground. I just saw it. Anyways, what I want to do is throw a scope on here and measure some voltage drops. So with everything connected, the scope ground is going to be on battery ground. Right here, we know this is a good connection from the post to at least this clamp. Okay, then channel 1, I want to put on, like right here. This is the engine. Attach that to, channel 1 is on here. So we'll measure the voltage drop between the engine and the battery. Second thing we can measure is a body ground. For example, this is part of the body. Put a channel 2 right there. That'll measure the ground at that clamped lug. Wait for this thing to act up, see what the voltage is, and if it drops, will we see voltage drop? We can try to discharge the battery a little bit, leave the lights on, and then once the alternator kicks in, it'll be a pretty high current flow to replenish the battery. Usually the more current flow you have, the more that connection heats up, and then you're going to start having problems. There's like a 1 or 2 volt drop across there. Yeah, the alternator is like, hey, we're putting out 14 volts, but the, whatever, the battery, the system voltage is dropping, so anything can happen. I think that's going to be our problem. I think it's going to be a poor ground connection. Even on the car cranks, it starts up fine. You wouldn't think there's a bad ground. We saw another case study on this. The Hyundai Elantra, almost exactly the same. Alternator, every year they're replacing the alternator. That's not the problem. There's a bad ground connection on the frame rail. From the battery to the frame rail. We proved that, and now the car's perfect. So I'm hoping this will be a no parts required fix. We can save the customer $500. That would be really amazing. And so let's hook up the scope and do some measurements. So 3 channel setup. Channel 1 is on this engine ground. Channel 2 is on this body ground. Channel 3 is on just battery voltage right at the terminal. Let's fire it up. Wait for this thing to act up. On the scanner, I'm also graphing the battery current sensor and system voltage. 11.8 right now. At the battery, we're at right around 12, so that's normal. Turn on some headlights. 11.68. Yep, so that's good. Our ground voltages, I put it on a 5 volt scale. We can put it on a 2 volt scale. So that's the engine ground and the body ground. Let's fire it up. All right, here we go. Yep, 14.9 volts, perfect. I'm gonna back it out, run it outside for a little while. See if we see anything interesting. So my engine ground wasn't connected very well. I'm like, there should be more noise than that. Let's shut it off for a second. Start it back up. So nothing too crazy on startup. Let's wait until this alternator starts acting up. Boom, there it goes. Like clockwork, our alternator shut off, the battery light's on, and we don't see anything funky on our grounds whatsoever. I can't believe it's a bad alternator. 3 in a row? That completely blows my mind. This is crazy stuff. I'm gonna have to try an aftermarket. I mean, I thought we would find something interesting on those grounds, but apparently not. So we're replacing the alternator on the 2010 Nissan Maxima. I got a Denso remanufactured in the USA. There's the part number. From Rock Auto. This thing was less than half the price of the dealer Reman, which actually sent back since it was identical to the two previous alternators that were tried on the car. So I'm like, why spend another $500, do all that labor, just to have, you know, potentially another bad one from the dealer. So hopefully Denso pulls through. Now to get this sucker out, there's a major shortcut you can take. You don't have to drain the coolant. You don't have to discharge the AC. The tricky part is dropping this air conditioning compressor far enough down so the alternator has enough clearance between the frame rail and the AC compressor. And you can see I pulled off the clutch face, just one little bolt, and don't lose these shims. Those are very important. So just to prevent, you know, banging up the clutch hub against the frame rail. And you do have to unscrew this subframe bolt to allow the subframe to drop another ½ an inch or so, and that's the only way to get enough clearance. There are some YouTube videos that show a similar procedure, but you know, they're always disconnecting hoses and stuff. You don't need to disconnect any hoses whatsoever. Just make some room. Didn't touch anything up here. Just, you know, got the little bolt out from the bracket up top and this long bolt from the bottom. It just pushes through. It goes right here in this bracket on the engine. So let's pop in the new alternator and fire it up, see what the voltage is. Alright, just got the wheel left to put on, but let's fire up the scanner, look at the voltages, look at the current, make sure the battery light's not out of this alternator, and then we'll back it outside and let it run, I don't know, for however long. Make sure the battery light stays out. We're not going for a test drive. We just got like ½ a foot of fresh wet snow, and worn summer tires are not going to cut it, so we'll just let it idle outside. Alright, on the scanner, geez, here, I don't know why it's fussing. Battery current sensor, battery voltage. So if I turn the lights on, you can see our battery current goes down. Let's fire it up, see if this alternator will put out 14 volts. Okay, so far, so good. Look at that current, 3.5 volts on the battery current sensor. So that alternator is putting out, the battery is a little discharged. I'm going to put the wheel on and back this thing outside, make sure everything's perfect. Well, car's fully warmed up. It's been running for about ½ an hour. RPMs are doing something a little weird. I don't know if it's hunting for an idle. Just rock steady at 14.2 volts. I'll turn on some loads. AC, rear defrost, wipers. Still rock steady at 14. Positive value on the battery current sensor. I think we're in good shape. This car hasn't charged this well since I got here. So I'm happy with that result. When parts are replaced, the same part replaced several times in a row, especially if they use the dealer, whatever, OEM, even though it wasn't brand new, it was a reman from the dealer, it makes you second guess yourself. I have a hard time believing that we had 3 bad alternators in a row, and the first 2 were the dealer ones, or the original, I guess, went bad. Then they tried 2 OEM replacements, reman, junk. I think it lasted a day. So we'll see how long the Denso lasts from Rock Auto. cross your fingers. This has been my go-to for any vehicle that has been going through alternators. You know, you can get them from the auto parts store, just cheap Reman junk. I try the Denso on Rock Auto, and usually that takes care of it, at least for a few years, you know. So that's my advice. Stick with the name brands. If you can't get a brand new OEM, go name brand. Thanks all for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye. So a little bonus footage on the Nissan Maxima. Not quite done here. Indeed, it has a lean condition at idle. Let's look at some live data. Obviously, the owner wants it fixed. He wants to sell this thing, and he wants us to diagnose this problem. Not related to the charging issue. It's charging great. So let's dive into OBD2. It feels kind of running rough, and the RPMs go up, so it's kind of jumping in and out of closed loop here. So let's read the fault code. 171 and 174, so both bank 1 and bank 2. No freeze frame data. Let's read the live data, and you want to look at the mass airflow sensor. It's the engine RPM, coolant temp. Oh, it's not happy. It's like equivalence ratio, long-term trim, bank 2 sensor 2, bank 1 sensor 2, and short-term trim. So you see our mass airflow sensor, it's only at 3 grams per second. This is a 3.5 liter V6. Short terms are pegged out at 25, long terms are at 10. Equivalence ratio is 1.25. It's not happy. I'm just going to give it a little bit of gas. You can see fuel trims recover. We're back in stoichiometric. Long-term trims are right around 0, back to an idle, and that shoots way up to 25%. We're lean. If I put in gear under a little bit of load, it's still lean. I give it just a tiny bit of gas, and we start recovering. So definitely a vacuum leak. So note the airflow rate at idle, less than 3 grams per second. Let's also look at throttle position. 3.1%. Okay. Downstream oxygen sensors, once they wake up, they just get stuck low at idle. So let's pull in the shop, look for a vacuum leak. Alright, doing quick visual inspection. I don't see anything abnormal right off the bat. I checked that there is an air cleaner in here. Here's the mass airflow. The intake pipe is not torn. You might think this is mounted crooked, but that's just the way it is. Throttle body, then this part's under vacuum. So we have these intake runners, flappers, I guess. And off the back, we have a pipe going to our brake booster. Brakes work fine. And this little thing, that's our, probably the fuel rail pressure regulator. Oh, where does that go? It goes down there. Quite a few vacuum lines. Here's our purge. Comes up here to our purge valve. That goes somewhere down there. I don't see anything disconnected, anything out of the ordinary that jumps out. So we might have to put a smoke machine on this thing. You can see the 2 valve covers are connected by this pipe here. There's our PCV. Oh, got it. This hose right here, PCV hose, is collapsed right there. There's our vacuum leak. Unrelated to anything. No one's ever been here. So this almost looks like a Ford. If I get lighting back here, but well, you guys see this right there? See that crack? Boom! Sweet! Let's replace the hose. Take it for a spin, make sure it's perfect. Here's the prize. Not too bad to extract out of there. Definitely collapsed like a Ford. Just degradation and constant vacuum on this thing. So we'll replace it with this guy here. Rated for PCV and evap systems. Button it back up, look at the fuel trims. Alright, brand new replacement hose installed, and let's not forget our brake booster because then we'll have an even bigger vacuum leak. Put that clamp back on, fire this thing up. Oh, we're definitely back in business now. About 3.5 to 4 grams per second at idle. Look at those short trims, -8, -10, and our long terms are stuck at 10 because it remembered. So what we can do is, again, clear out the memory or the trouble codes. You see it's pending, permanent. Let's just shut the engine off, clear these out. And see if the fuel trims actually reset. Definitely running smoother, as expected. Terms are still plus 10. Short terms are well, it'll relearn. Look at -14. We can disconnect the battery again, I guess. -20. Well, it's definitely in control. I shouldn't set any more check engine lights. So that's it. Little bonus footage, unrelated issue, but might as well button that up so the car's ready to sell. No check engine lights. Customer will be happy. Thanks a lot for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.